As a yoga teacher and a musculoskeletal therapist, I see a lot of yogis, and also in the general population, people trying to stretch out their hip to relieve tension in their muscle and relieve tension in their low back. While it may look very impressive in a yoga posture, like a pigeon pose, for example, if you do have pre-existing back injury or hip injury, this is going to progressively make it worse as you age. So these are a couple of movements that are going to help you to stretch and open up through those tight areas in your hips and pelvis without making it unstable, okay, or destabilizing. So if you don't have yoga props, instead of a block, you can use a book. Instead of a bolster, you can use a couple of rolled up beach towels, a couple of blankets, to get about the same height. All right, you just roll them up. Pillows aren't firm enough. Okay, so here I'm gonna lie on my left side, and I'll demonstrate what it looks like at the front, and then I'll move to the back. So ideally, you want a roll where your knee is about as high as your hip. Okay, so it would sit about there as opposed to down there. All right, so try and get a few more blankets to get that high. I'm just going to rest the head here so I've got just enough space for my shoulder to relax. If you're a belly sleeper, watch that you don't come too far forward onto your thigh that's close to the ground. All right, then I'm going to pull my left leg back, so the leg that I'm lying on, I'll pull it back, and I'll turn around for you easy so you can see the other way in a sec. And I want you to feel like you're not backward bending, all right? So if I press down my top arm to the ground and keep my ear to the mat, it's gonna stop me from twisting into the back to compensate for the tight hip. I'm then gonna bring my heel in towards my bottom. If you cramp, you straighten it back out. And then heel in towards bottom, and I pump that a few times. And if I'm mobile enough, I can reach back, grab onto the top of the foot, and gently just hold the leg in that position. So you don't want to tug against your tightness. Instead, just take it to its first barrier. Breathe in and out for a few breaths so the front of the hips can unwind. Second movement that's going to help to release the hips. Instead of doing figure of fours or pigeon to stretch into glutes, if you have hip pathology or back pathology, you want to move this out of your routine, whether it's warming up for a different sport or whether it's part of your yoga practice. Instead, we're going to dumb it down, taking feet wider than the hips, and then slow motion, both knees off to the side, okay? Be mindful if you have had hip replacement or hip surgery that you're not pushing into a sense of tightness. You just take your leg through that range, and then you can slowly come back up. Then while I'm here on my back, I'm going to bring still my left leg into a right angle position. And then in slow-mo, I'm going to screw in my hip. Quite literally, slow movements that are working to roll the head of my femur, the ball, into the socket of the acetabulum, okay? So this is really, really boring exercise, but it's vital if you do have a hip or low back pathology and you've made it worse through these kind of stretches. Just to demonstrate what that looks like from the back, I'll bring my towel back in. So you want to have your knee about as high as your hip if you can. If I make this a little bit higher, that will help. Try and have something under the ankle as well. I've got a spacer for my neck, so I've got some space for my shoulder. I'm going to straighten my bottom leg as much as I can first. Then heel in towards bottom. If you crab, keep it moving, flossing it in and out without bending or extending into the low back. Okay, it's all just coming from the leg. Then you can reach back for your foot if you can grab it. If you can't grab it, you can hook something over it. And instead of pulling against tightness, just hold it there in range and breathe deeply for at least 4 to 10 breaths. Coming back onto the back. Again, you can windscreen wiper and then take it into screwing in the hip on the opposite side. Again, doesn't look as fun and fancy as these movements, but any pathology around the hip and the low back, even though you feel tight, this movement, and this movement make it worse. Hariom Tat Sat.